Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Astro Dim here, doing the first podcast-a-ween, the first video every day, October. And if you don't know now, you know that we are doing a podcast episode every single day of October. How esoteric of me, how 8th house of me, how divination-y of me, how Scorpio Libra vibes of me. Well, like, Libra's more of the cute Halloween costumes, while Scorpio's more of the creepy one. But yeah, y'all, this is what I wanted to do to kick off October, which is really deeply connected to the 8th house and divination, astrology, death, transformation, tarot, and all that fun stuff, right? So let's get started. People that say, if you don't know now, you know. Our first person that we're going to be talking about is Biggie. Now you're going to be like, what about Biggie we're talking about? You know, we're going to be actually talking about conspiracy theory deaths, yo. And so that's what every episode is going to be about. And so we're going to start off with Biggie. And yeah, like, that's how we're going to do this. Biggie was, my heart. I love that dude so much. I was lucky enough to be born with siblings who are a lot older than me, and it actually wasn't as great as you think it would be. So I felt alone often, because the youngest after me is 5 years older than me. So picture the gap, right? But the cool thing about it, one of the few cool things about it, is that they had all this bomb music that I would sneak and listen to. And one of those artists that I would listen to is Biggie. And I know, like, he passed away when I was really young. I was, passed away in 97. So I was 9, I believe. And I remember when he passed away and I cried. I was so upset, because he was my favorite rapper, and I really rooted for him. He repped the East Coast, so I'm an East Coaster. And I did listen to, it did also show you, like, a Capricorn sun child listening to, like, grown-ass 90s hip-hop and R&B. Like, that's the type of kid, like, everyone was liking, like, Spice Girls and Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys. I was listening to, like, Biggie, freaking Lost Boys, Nas, Tupac. That goes to show you what type of kid I was. Capricorn children are very mature, but Biggie was one of my favorite rappers, my favorite rapper for the longest. But when you get older, the sucky thing is you realize that, there's artists out here who's continuously making music, and unfortunately, actually fortunately for these artists, they're becoming better, stronger, greater lyricists, being good at composing music, and he didn't even get the chance to. Really heartbreaking how he died. Very, very heartbreaking. Amazing lyricist, insane writer, definite game changer, and just awesome overall. Usually people didn't have anything too bad to say about them. Like, Tupac did, but, don't really get me started with that, because that whole beef was silly to me, even though I love them both. That beef was silly, but love me some Biggie. He was my favorite rapper for the longest, and definitely on my top 5 dead or alive still. Okay? Amazing rapper that I still listen to this day. Okay? So I wanted to pay homage. And that's what I'm going to be doing in the beginning. I'm going to be paying homage to these people, because yes, we're looking at their charts and looking at their death, but these people have passed. And the thing is, it's like, I know people are really sensitive about death, and I am too. Like, I'm very touchy and sensitive about death. But one thing that is needed to learn, guys, is that we need to learn is that, death is a part of the process. That's one thing that is guaranteed, that we die, okay? And so we're not even guaranteed birth, because some babies, sadly, stillborns, we're literally, the only thing we are guaranteed is death, okay? So the thing is, it's like, we need to be more encouraging and loving to it, and more accepting of it. And maybe if we kind of let our guard down, we can know a little bit more about what happens life after death. Another big reference. Amazing album. But I would say comfortably the best double disc album. I'm saying right now. My mind changes a lot. I'm a 12th houser. But right now, I can comfortably say best double disc album. Holla at your girl. Okay? Anywho. That's actually one of the things that I really want to focus on in this lifetime, is really getting more comfortable with death. I've experienced death so young, and my whole idea of it is totally warped. I want to get a little bit more understanding and accepting of it. But as you all know, any death with someone so young and someone so talented and well loved, but regardless of that, someone who was just yanked out of our lives, like those deaths are the worst. Like murders and accidents and suicides, when people just yanked out of the 3D world. That's the hardest to go through, the hardest to deal with. And so, yes, we should be a little bit more open to death, but I am totally understanding that this stuff is hard to talk about, especially in cases like how Biggie passed. God bless his soul. So with all that being said, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to go through this episode and most of the episodes. So like I said before, I'm going to be, talking generally about the artist, the person, the celebrity, or whoever the person is, because it could be any weird death that we think is strange and we want to talk about. But I'm definitely going to be talking about the life of the person, who they were, what accomplishments they made, right? One of the accomplishments Biggie made was that he went diamond. One of the first rappers to go diamond. He's one of the first 5, I believe, to go diamond, which is amazing. It's 10 million records sold. And with him, he actually sold pure records. Like a lot of people say they go diamond, and they don't. He actually sold 10 million copies of his album. It's not no weird fudged numbers. Amazing, right? Born in Brooklyn. He was Jamaican American heritage, so he was born in America, but his mother is Jamaican. Didn't know his father. Born in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Always into music. Started rapping randomly in the streets, trying to stay out of trouble and stuff. And of course, as most people from the inner city, sometimes it's hard to stay out of trouble. But he tried his best and he used music to get him out of it. Signed with Bad Boy, with Diddy. He was the person that made Diddy who he is today. And that's why Diddy always shows him love and respect. And unfortunately, he passed away March 9th. 1997 in LA, and very sad time for sure. But anyways, I'm all over the place. Let me center myself. Pluto went direct, okay? Of course, Pluto will go direct October 1st, right? Or make sure it was direct on October 1st. But anywho, what I'm going to do is talk about the person, which I just did. I'm going to go through their birth chart and see what I can find, stuff relating to death in their birth chart. And then I'm going to go to the chart of their death, when they passed. You know what I mean? Then, I'll probably have some final words there, okay? So these podcasts are not going to be as long as the podcasts usually are, probably. Depends on the person's chart and what information we can get, but I'm going to try to really expand this a little bit, because the thing is that there's some, I could always look at Astro theme, right, and look at the chart, but there's certain aspects I really want to go deeper in. So yeah, that's how I'm going to do this. Okay, all right, let me get started. Hey, what's up, y'all? All right, so now I'm heading over to I'm looking at Biggie's birth chart. I'm going to tell y'all what I'm going to pay attention to specifically. I'm going to pay attention to where Pluto is at, and the aspects that Pluto is making. I'm going to pay attention to Saturn and the aspects Saturn's making, as well as Mars and the aspects that they're making. Saturn literally represents like the planet of death. That's like the old nickname of it. It doesn't mean that if it transits a certain house you're gonna die. Definitely, there's way more to astrology than that, and fate is real. And also, I forgot that other quote that I used to say. Free will is real. So I feel like you can kind of, if you're in tune with your higher self, be like, I don't want to die yet. Let me just chill. You know what I mean? Don't think like, look at the aspects I'm looking at prematurely freaking out that I'm going to die, because there's just so much more to it. A lot of these aspects that I'm mentioning happen like every year, every other year. It doesn't mean that you're going to die, but if you look at someone's death chart, you can kind of put the pieces all together. You get what I'm saying? And it can really explain things. And then like also different aspects have different meanings. Pluto doesn't just mean physical death. It means transformation in other ways too. An emotional death, a spiritual death. There's a lot to it. Okay, so I'm also going to be looking at the signs that connect with those planets, so Scorpio, Aries, and Capricorn. See if I see anything special there. And then next segment, I'm going to be looking at the time of his shooting and the time of his death, or when he was pronounced dead. Okay, so let's take a look here. First thing I'm looking at is Pluto. Pluto is in 29. His Pluto is in 29 degrees Virgo. Okay. Now I know you're wondering, like, okay, why are you going to be looking at Pluto? Pluto is very generational. Why would you look at that? Yes, Pluto is very generational. That's very true. But even a smaller fragment of people born in 29 degrees Virgo. You know what I mean? Like, there's even a smaller group of people, and it's going to resonate with them in different ways. I want to look at certain aspects that position is making to other planets to see if I can see any connections there. And again, like I said before, like different aspects means different things. Okay, so I definitely wanted to include that part there. But anyways, with his Pluto in a critical degree, which is 29th degree. 29th degree is so interesting because the energy is so potent. You have learned through all the lessons of Virgo, through each lesson from each degree, and it's all accumulated in the 29th degree. Plus, right, you have some of the energy of the sign afterwards trying to seep in, and so that's why this energy is so conflicting. And these people are very kind of high-strung and anxious about the energy of whatever planet that is in 29 degrees. All right, and so I don't know if you guys are really into Biggie or remember this, but Biggie was always talking about death, always saying he was scared of death, talked about murder, suicide, just had pretty much an obsession of it, and then he actually end up coming out and saying that, I'm afraid for my life. I think I'm going to get killed. Someone's out to get me, right? He always had that feeling. For him to have that at the 29th degree shows the anxiousness. But for Pluto, remember the sign of death and transformation, or the planet of death and transformation to be retrograde, meaning that he probably felt this energy on an everyday basis, but never externally talked about it until he started to really do rap, or really mass produce his rap music. The reason for that is because a lot of artists, what they do with their music is they talk about a lot of the stuff they've been feeling deep down inside in a creative way. And so that's definitely something there. But another thing too with that is that You know, it kind of describes his portion of Generation X. His portion of Generation X, even a little bit of the Pluto Libra portion of Generation X, dealt with death on an everyday routine basis, which is definitely represented by Virgo. I have brothers and family members who were born around that time who don't have a lot of their childhood friends anymore. They all passed. They all died. They got murdered. They had accidents. There's a lot of death in the Generation X era. And when you think about it, you know, born in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a lot of death within that energy of the time they were born. When you think about it, all the assassinations of these political figures, these civil rights figures, all of the deaths from the Vietnam War, all the deaths for the protesters and the marchers, and it's just was a very, very heavy time to be alive. And I really feel like it manifested through the children. And you know, a lot of people say Generation X is so crazy, blah blah blah, like they were born in a tough time. And I feel like a lot of people give Generation X a lot of flack. They really can't help the extra hyper masculinity and hyper anger, because they were literally born of a time where it was people were angry, people wanted their rights, people were upset. You get what I'm saying? And so I really feel like it manifested in him in that way for sure. Now, if we look, unfortunately, we don't have his birth time, so I can't talk about houses here, but I will talk about houses when it comes to the date of his death. Okay, if you look over at Dark Moon Lilith, right? His Dark Moon Lilith is kind of conjunct Pluto. Now, it's funny because a lot of times when I look at Dark Moon Lilith, I'm like, okay, I should see it as an asteroid. It's technically not an asteroid, though. It's like a cloudy spherical thing. So I'm going to right now treat this as a regular planet and give it a 7 degree orb, right? Dark Moon Lilith is in Virgo, right? And so that kind of shows that how, for masculine energy like him, how excuse me for that sound, how would a woman seek revenge onto him? So they'll definitely do it, messing up his everyday life, his everyday routine, right? And so how more can you fuck up someone's routine by killing them? You know what I mean? But definitely with Dark Moon Lilith conjuncting the moon, emotions were involved. Someone was upset. If you look at the other side of Pluto, Pluto is also conjunct Juno, which is represented as the life partner. I'm kind of feeling, you know, with Juno being retrograde, that definitely there might be a woman who wanted to be his life partner, who wanted to control his life and couldn't, who wanted to kind of play him as a puppet and couldn't. Because, you know, this guy was smart. He's a Gemini Sun, Virgo Moon, right? He really can't get past some details on point. It was in his lyrics, right? Tried to have control over him and couldn't. Was angry, over emotional, seek revenge onto him by killing him. All that energy within near his Pluto like that is something to be considering. You know, the moon's at 19 degrees Virgo. And, you know, I feel like they were mad that they couldn't be a part of his everyday life, his routine life. They wanted to be that top girl. They probably wanted to be the Faith Evans. You know what I mean? And they couldn't. Juno retrograde again shows control. And it's in Libra, control the relationship. So, you know, he wasn't allowing it. It pissed them off. And they felt like they had to seek revenge. This person, it's funny because there's a rumor in the esoteric world that there was a woman who actually killed him. Huge rumor. It's been talked about a lot. A lot of psychics and mediums feel the same way. Just typing it on YouTube. I swear it's there. It's crazy. And so, you know, it's sad that people feel like they really can have control over someone's life like that. But that's how it is. Another thing too, Requiem is an asteroid and is named for the funeral mass for the dead. That's conjuncting his moon. I feel like that's saying that he's going to be involved in a passionate killing a passionate love, and someone just gets so angry, they could be a part of their everyday life, including Virgo, that they it works their emotions up, and then you move over to Dark Moon Lilith, revenge, move over to Pluto, death, right? This person could have been a soulmate for him. Pluto represents intimacy, emotional bonding, and I kind of connect this with like deep karmic relationships, spiritual connections, and twin flames. I really feel like there might be something there. Pluto also, his Pluto is retrograde. I already mentioned that. But his retrograde Pluto is sextile Neptune retrograde, right? So he definitely had a spiritual aspect to him, and he let it be known a bit, right? He'll say like some dark stuff, but he in his interviews he really did show his appreciation to spirituality and God. But for his Pluto to be sextile Neptune, I feel like it shows that his death has a spiritual meaning to it, a spiritual connection to it. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was just a fated event, something that was supposed to happen, something that was supposed to be a lesson, maybe not at this specific time, because it is a minor asteroid, but I feel like he was going to be involved somewhat, even if he lived through it, through a passionate death, through passionate violence somehow, okay? What else can I see here, y'all? This Pluto's also sextile South Node, so maybe the transformation, his spiritual transformation or his death is connected to a karmic relationship, a karmic past, something connected to him not nurturing a person, or nurturing the wrong person, or maybe he in the past life he was nurturing his killer, right? And in this life they have this memory, and he's not giving her that. He's not giving her the same love they did in the past life, and it makes her mad. She feels she's entitled to it. You get what I'm saying? I keep saying her, and the reason why I keep saying her is because that connection with Juno and Pluto. I don't know, y'all. And then also hearing other esoteric people saying that it was a jealous woman that might have killed him. Not killed him directly, but set him up. It's really interesting. For Pluto to be so close to Libra, Juno being in Libra, a partnership, maybe she literally made a deal with the devil, made a deal with someone to make that shit happen. So sad, man. What's another thing I see, y'all? Pluto is squaring Venus as well, connected to love, his transformation, all the transformations he had, physical, emotional, whatever, was connected to some type of love or his desires. Even if you think about it, he desired a better living opportunity through his creativity, and he transformed his life through that, right? But it could be love desires too, okay? That's what I'm seeing so far, y'all. It's just a real sad situation. Pluto is trying his sun, so he's definitely has I wouldn't be surprised if he had a transformative thoughts or transformative ways with health, because your sun represents your vitality. So I wouldn't be surprised if he could have almost made it, and then something went off. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised as well as that. Actually, he did. He not almost died, but he had a lot of incidences where he made it out alive from a situation. You know what I mean? Like he was around something, could have gotten killed and didn't. That recording session, the time where he was on the, I believe, one of the bridges. I forgot, George Washington Bridge, and got shot at and didn't die. Maybe this was his last opportunity, or that was the last opportunity of him making it out, yeah, man, crazy shit right there. So that's Pluto. Still go over at Saturn. Saturn's not really saying much to me. It's in Gemini, but it is a conjunct Sun. Saturn, again, a lot of people call it the planet of death. I don't know if that's an older saying or older thing. But for Saturn to be so close to his Sun, this restriction to his vitality. But the crazy thing about it, though, is that, he had, for his Saturn to be in Gemini, he was restricted in communication. I feel like he was such a great communicator, was able to literally make a business out of communicating. So it's interesting how it still was some restriction there. I won't be able to see where in his life he felt this restriction because we don't have his house placements. But for Saturn to be conjunct in Sun, him being restricted in his communication, in his community, which he broke out of that too. He took authority out of these things. I kind of don't get how he died, but for this connection of his death with this, but there has to be one for Saturn and Sun to be so close. Maybe he didn't communicate the right things, or the things that, not the right things, but the things that God wanted him to communicate. The thing is, it's like, a lot of people didn't like how he rapped, because he rapped really, like, he rapped some dark stuff about murder and sex, and sometimes demeaning, sometimes not, to men and women, honestly. But the thing is, I totally think that I'm a big hip hop person. I feel like people should have the right to say what they want. Of course, there's limits to everything. But the thing is, though, is that, it's important. Hip hop is so important and was so well liked and still around. Not like other genres, right? Because it spoke the truth of how, of different experiences that people went through, and experiences of just what people saw. And it's just spoke of something that was different to other people who were like, oh, really? That type of shit happens? You know what I mean? It spoke truth. Like, it spoke of actual things that happened, actual experiences. And it could be someone's wildest imagination. Like, it might not have happened to them directly, but it just spoke of different things that were not spoken about, the taboo. And I'm, you know what I mean? I'm not even an 8th houser, but I'm like, put that shit out there. You know what I mean? Like, really express all that shit. No, it doesn't have to have a positive spin to it, because sometimes shit happens and you can't see the positive spin. You don't want to even think about the positive spin because you can't see it at the moment. So no, just put that shit out there. You know what I mean? Like, it's a part of life. Like, the dark and the light is a part of life. You know what I mean? Anyway, maybe it was something with his, some restriction with his communication. Maybe he is sad that he didn't get a chance to really express it like he wanted. But, it fucked with his vitality somehow. Saturn being so close to his Sun. So I kind of see that there. Another thing that I see too is his Sun is, Sun and Saturn actually is opposite destiny. No, not really destiny, his Sun, but I'll say his Saturn is opposite destiny. It's an asteroid. Destiny is interesting part. Destiny is or it's actually destined, but we use it for destiny. But destiny is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is all about mutable fire. Fire just coming out of nowhere, all over the place. It reminds me of bullets, right? So I can definitely see that there, with it being retrograde too. Again, he felt like he was going to get killed. He felt like he was going to get shot. Just talking about it's just so sad. Because I just remember him I remember some interviews that he was on. He was talking about how he was scared that he was going to die, and he felt it. It's so interesting how people just feel that so strong. It really is heartbreaking, honestly. It really is. So let's look over at Mars now, because I don't see anything we're saying with Saturn right now. His Mars is conjunct Venus. I'm not saying everybody with Mars conjunct Venus is going to experience this again. I want to just stress that one more time. But violence from feminine energy. Mars represents literally aggression and violence and war. Venus is the ultimate feminine, right? I can see that there. And with it both being in Cancer, they wasn't feeling nurtured enough. They wasn't getting that love that they wanted. So they did what they did, Then now that the more I'm looking at his birth chart, the more I'm believing that the mediums that were mentioned in that, and it was more than one medium that said it. That's the crazy thing. It was more than one medium that said it. Chiron in Aries too. Aries, or the first house in general, but this whole with Chiron being there, some trauma having to experience trauma from the physical body, or through motivation and drive, you know what I mean? There might be a connection, but Chiron's more of the wounded healer, more representative of childhood trauma. He could be a wounded healer in a sense of people seeing, like, okay, he made it out, I can make it out too, you know what I mean? And he did write some songs saying that, trying to promote people to try to bring his boys together, and to do the same thing. So I can see him healing in that way. But with Chiron and Aries, though, is wounded healer, right? Maybe his body was wounded and now he heals in spirit. I can see something like that possibly happening. Interesting thing too is the Venus-Mars conjunction is opposite Jupiter. Jupiter represents the husband. When I'm like, yeah, everyone's like, what? The husband? Yeah. And he is a straight man. I feel like he's of masculine energy. But the husband could be a wife too. I can see it as that. Usually I see more Venus as the wife, but maybe because they're so opposite of each other, right? Maybe the person, or the quote-unquote woman that was involved in his death was wanted to be like the husband. You can't, and a lot of people say, I'm not sure, like, I'm not into, the whole, like, dynamics of, different couples. But a lot of people say there's usually masculine, feminine energy coming together to build a relationship, coming as one. He's masculine. If the woman has a masculine energy, it's not going to work out. Thus, this whole terrible situation that we're talking about now. Okay. I'm just looking through, seeing if I see anything else. His North Node's in Capricorn too. The transformation, I can see that his transformation that he did, since Pluto is trine his North Node, that I think he fulfilled what he was supposed to fulfill. Generally. He generally fulfilled what he was supposed to fulfill, which is nice. It's good to hear. And then he has nothing in Scorpio. Literally nothing in Scorpio. So, some free reign there, but his Pluto aspects are wild, wild. All right. So this is my live looking through Biggie's birth chart, trying to see if I can speak something on his death. The cool thing about astrology, I know people would say, like, I didn't know Venus Mars meant, aggression to a feminine energy. It doesn't always mean that way. It goes to show you that astrology is not so cookie cutter that when people make it out to be. You can literally turn the lens a little bit and use a different perspective in all the different ways through astrology. You know what I mean? So I can turn my lens, see a different perspective about his death. Turn the lens, see a different perspective about his career. Turn the lens, see a different perspective about his life path. You know what I mean? Just because you have the moon in Virgo at 19 degrees, it don't just mean one thing. Okay? There's layers. There's so many layers to astrology that it just goes super duper deep. Okay? So please know that. Another thing to note too, he has a lot of mutable energy. Very flexible. Sometimes when you're a little bit too flexible in the mutable energy that you're in, it could cause you to like be on earth. Now you're out of earth and you're like, what? And you die fast. I can see that happening here. He has the asteroid RIP in Pisces. I feel like, even though he was pronounced at 115, there could have been a chance where he was just out. Or he tried to stay along for a bit, but then out. You know what I mean? Again, with that Pluto, not Pluto, what was the aspect I saw? It was something trying something. I forgot. I just mentioned. That said he had, Pluto trine North Node. He had a lot of, no, it wasn't that. It was something else. But he had a lot of chances at living. And he kept getting in situations where he almost died. But when he was really stuck, he just, was really shot up and there was nothing to really do about it. I felt like he just left that quick. I wouldn't be surprised if he died quick. A lot of times too, our body's still pumping and our spirit's out. And we're watching ourselves die. I have a lot of people said they experienced that. And then they will come back. So maybe he just saw it and bounced, Mutable energy is tricky like that. But, that's the funny thing about modalities is that although no one's wrong, but, there's a right and wrong to everything. Not right and wrong, excuse me. A good and bad to everything. And so it's great that mutable energy can move really fast. But sometimes it moves so fast that they have to go with a decision that was already being made, such as death, So, now they have to, they can't go back to life in the life that they were living. Now they have to go and deal with the spiritual world in their own way, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's what I got for now. All right. Let's look at the chart of his death and go from there, right? Y'all, so now let's look at the chart of Biggie's death. We have houses here that we can focus on because we have the time. He was shot at 12:04 a.m. March 9th, 1997 on a Sunday in Los Angeles, and then he was pronounced dead at 1:15. Okay, there wasn't many changes through that time because it's still Sag rising, but it did show that some of these asteroids were and some of these planets switched houses, so that might be something to mention. Okay, so let's get to it now. Sagittarius rising, y'all. Again, when I think of Sagittarius rising and a death or shooting, like when you think about it too, a lot of like shootings happen in the middle of the night, like around 12, 1, 2. And not all Sag rising people are born around that time, but you can kind of think that like for the most part they are, depending on the time of day or the time of year. So that's something to mention. But yeah, mutable fire, fire coming from one angle to the next, all over the place. It was a shootout. Yeah, definitely he was shot. It was a shootout. Bam, right? The thing is, they don't know they played themselves. Pars of fortune is conjunct his ascendant, right? So this shows that, he was actually more on the spiritual side of thinking. I remember actually seeing Biggie being like that too, not myself, but through like the interviews that I watched with him. Definitely more on the spiritual side of things. And he's either currently getting his revenge or had his revenge from this person. So these people play themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if they're suffering greatly now or they're dead. The thing is too is if you look at Pars of Fortune, it is conjunct Pluto, and Pluto is retrograde again, right? But it shows that his death and him fully accepting his death at the moment and going when he went brought him luck. So he's probably in paradise right now. He's good, which gives me a lot of love. But the thing that makes me a little concerned is that RIP is at the 29th degree of Scorpio. I have a feeling that at first, even though he was at paradise, might have been a destined thing. He didn't like it. He's had more life to live. He has all these lessons of death, of Scorpio, of transformation, all coming and impacting him in this 1 degree, 29 degrees, plus some of Sagittarius energy coming through. For RIP to be there, and in the 12th house too. I feel like he wasn't completely okay with him dying at first, but he was able to get acceptance of it. And once he did, it just ignited something amazing in him. I don't think he's ever coming back to Earth. I think he definitely fulfilled his purpose. And what a magnificent life to live. You know what I mean? He lived more than most people. He was only 24 years old. Lived than most people did at 60. So interesting. Another point that's quite interesting as well is that Osiris is retrograde. Is conjunct his ascendant. Ascendant is literally your physical body, your appearance, right? And Osiris is the Egyptian god of the dead. Crazy, right? This was his timing. But the thing is that's crazy too is that like I can't, since he is of Black ancestry, and a lot of New Yorkers and East Coasters like Bostonians too, just East Coasters like Jersey, whatever, Philly, were definitely into at that time, African traditional religion and kind of being a little bit more open-minded to that. Like if you live in a city, you've been more open-minded to that African traditional religion and adding that aspect into like Christianity or Muslim or Islam or whatever, right? He might have been doing the same, and his ancestors came and picked him up. Wouldn't be surprised at that. So that again, this is really, it seems like he died fast. A lot of fire coming at him, died fast. And even though he was pronounced dead at 1:15, definitely something else. This was this I feel like he was out of his body by that time. His body was just pumping per usual, trying to survive. But I think he was gone before then. Okay. I know this has really not much to do with his death, but his second house is loaded in his death. This could have been about money, his possessions, not feeling, and again with this whole woman theme, right? This woman being jealous and setting him up. Maybe she wanted to live that lavish life. She wanted to be the Faith Evans, the wife, and she couldn't. Definitely could see that. Just to make sure I put this out there too. No, I don't think it's Little Kim. I do agree with certain mediums though about who it could be. I'm not going to put their name out there. If you're into hip hop, and you listen to those mediums videos, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about, okay? Exactly who I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Anywho, but I definitely don't think it's Little Kim. She loved that man way too much, took it way too hard now. If you kind of look at his fourth house, I mean, his third house is loaded too, actually. Let's look at that. Loaded third house. So it kind of, remember how I was saying that he had restrictions with communication, because his Sun and Saturn was conjunct. His third house, which represents communications too. For it to be loaded like that, maybe this does show that, like, he didn't fully fulfill his Saturn duty, and he didn't get a chance to. He was only 24. He didn't even go to his Saturn return. God bless him. You know what I mean? But if we look at here, right? Let's look a little bit deeper at the third house. The third house has some more positive aspects here. I mean, honestly, all of them are neutral, but the Sun is usually good to see. Mercury is usually good to see. Venus is, but having the moon here, the moon is not bad, but it kind of phases in and out. And for it to be in a water sign too, a new moon to be at that, wow. That goes to show you that new beginning, right? Yeah, this is fated, y'all. Whoa, this is fated. Woof, it gave me chills. With South Node conjuncting all of them too. In Pisces, oh my God, this is fated. I have chills. Wow. Sorry, this is really, wow. Yeah, he was supposed to. Yeah. Wow, God bless him. That's crazy. Anyways, it showed that maybe he didn't fulfill all his Saturn duties, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had to kind of put some things together after he died and then get to his paradise. But this is connected to his past life. This is something that he had to fulfill and had to go through, to have his yin and his yang conjuncting his South Node, what he feels, his emotions, how he feels deep inside, and his identity, how he reacts to things, his self-expression. He was he was so spiritual at the time too, like not super duper, but like he was talking about God and that stuff a lot. That is crazy. Interesting, y'all. Wow. Kind of shows too with Mercury conjunct the Sun, Mercury conjunct the Moon too. But wow, insane. But what I was trying to say before I got like shocked to death, right, is that it kind of has these higher, like auspicious kind of planets in the third house, but also the not so auspicious planets. The moon's not like bad, or the South Node's not bad, but it definitely is things that you need to work on for sure. Your South Node is what you're used to doing. Your North Node is what you need to be doing. You know what I mean? Another thing I peeped too is that Anthropos, I might be pronouncing this just totally wrong, but Anthropos is represents death. It's an asteroid. It's conjunct his Venus. Again, y'all, I'm thinking this story of this woman trying to fuck with him. I'm thinking that's right, that some woman tried to set him up, and I really feel like it was a jealous woman. It was a jealous woman who wanted to be the wife, which Venus represents. And it goes to show you too, remember how I said that I really don't think it was faith. I think it was someone who wanted to be the wife. Look at where Juno is. Oh, you guys can't see, it's a podcast. But Juno is in Taurus in the 5th house. 5th house is casual dating, right? The casual sex. It was someone that he was messing with, but Juno's here, so she wanted to be the wife. She wanted to be wifey, and he wasn't allowing it. Taurus represents, is Venusian, represents luxury, the finer things in life. She wanted that. She set him up. wow, she set him up. Like, it's so crazy. I remember when I was first listening to the mediums talk about this, I was like, wow, that story's wild. I mean, I can see it happening, but really? Could that happen? Did that really go down that way? And it looks like it did, y'all. You know, Saturn in the 4th shows that he has some restriction in the home. You know, at this time, he was separated with Faith. He's still married. He was separated with Faith. Has some restrictions on, how he looked to his community, because that whole scenario with Faith messing around with Tupac, she said it never happened. She just took a picture with him, trying to make Biggie a little jealous, and it just turned awful. And he didn't like how his appearance came out in this situation. Now, I think he was over it by now, but people, that just happened literally probably a year prior to his death. So it was still something that people think about, people talk about, And the thing is, for his South Node to also be conjunct his IC, he may have not completely understood, but he was so aware of what was going on. He might have let go of his fears by that very last week of his death, of his life. I mean, I felt like he was getting that this was somehow karmic or from his past, like what he was going through now. I think he somehow got it. And for his IC too, for his North Node to be in Pisces and his IC to be in Aries, and they're conjuncting body and spirit, I can see maybe the separation of both, being fully comfortable within your body and spirit. Interesting. Oh, y'all, I think that girl did it. It's wild. My mind is blown. His 8th house of his chart, of his death chart, literally has death all up on that shit. Okay. Anubis is in the 8th house and is conjunct destined. So literally it was destined for him to experience this transformation at this time. So that's definitely something that his soul was aware of, right? And I forgot, Anubis is an Egyptian god too, I think. It's death related, I believe so. But Vertex is in his 8th house too. And I know some people have Vertex in the 8th. Doesn't mean they're gonna die or nothing, but for it to be during his death chart, 0 degrees, this is Leo, it shows that it was like the death of his vitality. Leo's connected to the sun. You get what I'm saying? Sun is your vitality. Sun is your creativity. The death of his creative work, the death of his life, his vitality, his self-expression on the earthly realm. Wow, man. Wild as fuck, y'all. And to peep this too, because his IC is 10 degrees Aries, his MC is, 0 degrees Aries, his MC is 0 degrees Libra. Now you peep the Libra with the partnership, right? Relationships. Mars is conjunct this, North Node is conjunct this. Mars is in 29 degrees Virgo, where his Pluto was at natally. Violent death, retrograde as well, secret, no one's gonna really know. Honestly, it might not even be ever found out how he died. Crazy. But it was North Node. It was supposed to happen. It was a part of his path, right? And it was known all over the world. Conjunct the MC. MC represents scandal. It represents reputation, status, fame. His death is literally famous. It was a huge. Remember when it happened? It was huge, right? Insane, man. Wow, y'all. To have his Mars conjunct his Pluto, his natal Pluto, have this Mars, conjunct his natal Pluto is wild. Mars represents aggression. You know, that aggression, that everyday life aggression, the death of, not death, but violent death. There it is, y'all. It was supposed to happen. It was something that he was supposed to experience. And I believe that was his last life. And I'm so glad I was able to be here to see his genius, you know. But for all that to be conjunct his MC, which is in Libra, quite interesting. Partnership, romantic partnership. You know, I don't know, y'all. I think this thing is right. A lot of people say, you know, Diddy did it, and from that aspect, I can see how they would think that, because Virgo is your work environment. Libra can be also business partnerships, but with all these other woman aspects, nah. And I always had just an intuitive feeling I don't think Diddy was involved. You know, beyond just business wise, you know, Biggie had way more art to deliver, way more money to make. He was huge at the time. You know, as you could tell that there was love there. I don't think he would have done that, honestly. That's just my intuition saying that. But yeah, I think it was the mediums were right, y'all. It was another woman that, you know, which makes sense. You know, he was separated to Faith at the time, trying to make things work, but still separated. And that person was mad. He probably chose Faith, wanted to move forward with her, and he did. If we looked a little later to when he was pronounced dead, things shift slightly. R.I.P. is still in the 11th house, still in 29 degrees Scorpio, but on the cusp of the 12th house, right? So showing the transition from society knowing him as in the 3D to society knowing him in the spiritual world, right? Knowing him for being passing on. I'm sorry, RIP was in the 12th house and it moved to the 11th. Sorry. But it still shows that same element though, for sure. Osiris though, moving fast. Not moving fast, but actually it was Parts of Fortune that moved out the way. But Parts of Fortune's at 16 degrees now, but still in the 12th house. Again, that shows a tight conjunction between Parts of Fortune and Osiris. He was going to paradise. He fulfilled what he was supposed to fulfill for the most part, and now he was going to get his spiritual paradise. Ain't that beautiful? Pallas in the first, though. Now, Pallas is interesting because Pallas represents detailed work. It's very Virgo-esque, right? Very detailed work. The perfect daughter, really intelligent, cerebral, doing things in patterns, making sure everything looks good, detail-oriented. It moved from his second to his first, right? It kind of shows like the autopsy aspect of it. It shows like kind of that it was a murder. Because they were being detailed about his body, like what happened, how did he die, you know, so that kind of gives me that vibe over there. Vesta moved houses too. Now Vesta is the keeper of the hearth, sister of Jupiter, the virgin goddess, has mental clarity, self-respect, has a good talent of breaking things down into components as well. And represents and rules metabolism and upper intestines, which is interesting because I remember some mediums were saying that he did have some intestinal issues before he passed. So for it to switch signs is really interesting. I don't see the connection between second and third, but really interesting though. But it does show that the whole breaking down in components, he did that in his raps. it moved from the third house to the second. So now this whole breaking down things into components moved from communication to more of his possessions, bringing his possessions down to components, working through his will, seeing who's owed what, how that's going to work out, and all that, you know. Saturn moved to his third house. You know, the issue now is not the home. The issue now is that his voice is gone, his communication is gone, his thought process is gone in the 3D realm. You know, him being able to, his appearance, you know, like his physical body now, it's that's the issue. Now that's the thing that's gone. This asteroid as well, called Lachesis, excuse me, has to deal with death itself, and is very prominent in death charts in general, as well as the one I mentioned before, Anthropos, which I probably am pronouncing totally wrong, but that moving over to the 5th house with Juno. It's not aspecting Juno, but with Juno, yeah, I definitely feel like some girl who wanted to be his wife got jealous that he was trying to work things out with Faith and not move forward with her, got mad. I really do. I really feel like that's what it is, y'all. Fucking insane, man. Insane, y'all. And then lastly, the kicker. Dark Moon Lilith. How women seek revenge out to you. Moved from the 9th house to the 8th house. Shows that her mission was complete. She showed him, you know. It was more of a, like, from his natal chart, it was more of a passionate killing. With very withdrawn, like a long drawn out passionate killing, a premeditated passion killing, if that makes sense. So upset. It's like, if I can't have you, no one can. I want you to suffer. Ugh, crazy, y'all. So I'm gonna say the mediums were right. That's what I'm gonna say. Okay, so I'm gonna end this here and kick off with the last words, and that'll be the first episode of Podcastoween. Hey y'all, this is the last words. You know, this has got kind of a run through because, you know, with charts, if you got a reading from me, you know my readings can be for hours. But there were so many things that I could mention with his chart, like how Pluto was square, Dark Moon Lilith, again, revenge, with also square, what's next to Dark Moon Lilith? I'm trying to look at it here. Sorry, y'all. Requiem, which represents, funeral and mass for the dead, right? Can also talk about how there was other squares happening along with Pluto as well. But, I had to kind of cut it short eventually. So, most likely when I'm doing these, I'm probably going to talk mostly with conjunctions, trines, squares, possibly the other two, but definitely conjunctions. Because with asteroids, honestly, those are the strongest for sure. But with this death, though, one thing that I found quite interesting is in his chart of when he got shot, the 8th house lord, the ruler of the 8th house is Cancer, and the 8th house lord is in his 3rd house. It was really a transformation and death of his voice. We can't hear him like we usually hear people of the 3D anymore. We have to hear him through spirit. And it was just such an unfortunate event because he had so much promise, so much hope to change the music, to change the industry even more. He was only rapping for not even popular rapping, like popular wise, not even for 5 years, right? wasn't even in the charts for 5 years and changed the game immensely. So picture what he could have been doing now. It was a great loss. I remember the time. It was just such a somber, weird moment. I remember when him and Tupac passed. It's just really, really somber, really sad, really fucked up, really just two young souls lost so early in life. And but it seems like, honestly, that this was the route for Biggie. Wish it wasn't so violent, but I feel like it was connected to his past life. If you look at the chart of when he actually died too, Leo and Aquarius are intercepted, right? So again, Leo connected to the sun, so the sun is the vitality, and that's his 8th house, right? So the house of transformation and death. So he's having a new vitality now. Death of the 3D vitality and new rebirth of the spiritual vitality. You get what I'm saying? But it's also like a death of his self-expression and creativity in the 3D realm. And with Aquarius being intercepted too, death of his work being shared to the masses. He has some post-harmonious albums, but it's just not the same with those type of albums, because the artist is usually very involved in what songs are picked, what songs they like, and with him not being involved, it sounds different. It's him rapping, but it's not the same. And it's not the same without seeing the rapper alive and seeing them tour, seeing them excited about the albums, seeing the interviews. It's just different. It's just sad and it's different. So that's definitely true, that the moment that he was pronounced dead, what we see his creativity as is 3D beings was gone, and as well as us receiving his beautiful creative light as well. So it's just really somber times. But the thing that's interesting, though, if we look at his natal chart, right? With this natal chart, remember we were saying that he had restrictions with communication. I was really confused. It's like, it seems like he found his authority within his communication, right? Maybe I'm right that he did, and that's why he was taken so soon. He was always going to leave early. Maybe he was going to leave during his Saturn return, or after he finished it, but maybe he left earlier than expected because of that, because he already accomplished what he needed to accomplish with this Saturn, with other planets. The thing is, though, is that regardless if things are supposed to happen a certain way or not, karma is real. We don't know. He could have passed in a totally different way. It's not related to him literally being murdered. So, I have a strong feeling that the people who were involved in that are going to be suffering a lot, if they're not suffering already. With that being said, folks, God bless you all. R.I.P. B.I.G. Biggie forever. He is awesome. Always will be loved. Always will be one of my favorite rappers. Always a part of my 90s and childhood memories, Man, y'all understand, I remember we had this radio station that played mostly hip-hop from Emerson College, 88.9, and I remember when they dropped a new Biggie song, me and my siblings would all gather around the radio that we had. There's this big ass radio that had a freaking turntable up top, CD player, cassette, and so we had a blink cassettes, and as soon as we heard something, we'd press the record button so we could record that part, that song, or that part of the radio sequence or whatever. And so many good memories. Or when Can't You See video came out, my siblings first saw that, or any of his new videos. Or sadly, when Hypnotize Me came out after he died, the video, and how it was such a happy, beautiful video, but people were just so sad because he couldn't even enjoy it. Oh man, he's a big part of my memory. So I definitely had to bless this series with starting him off first. Okay. All right, folks. So God bless you. Much blessings to everybody. And if you want me to look a little bit deeper, because I could go deeper. Y'all know I could talk for hours when it comes to charts. If you want me to look deeper on just a specific aspect, right, with this charts, holla at me. What we can do is y'all, if y'all have Anchor, first of all, get Anchor. That's number one. But if y'all have Anchor, y'all can leave me voice notes that I can add onto the podcast. But I think you can, just leave me a voice note any type of way, right? I'm pretty sure your phone has a recording mechanism. And you can just send that off to me, and I'll add to the podcast, and we can talk. If there's a specific aspect you want me to dwell more into with any of these folks, if there's something you want me to talk about with any of these folks' charts that I'm going to be doing these series, shoot me a note, and we'll talk about it in the next episode. But, I'm definitely going to talk about somebody each day for October, okay? All right, y'all. Much love. R.I.P. Biggie. Peace.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.